All year, our cameraman in Gaza, Mohammed, has demonstrated astonishing bravery as he films the scenes of devastation all around him over and over again. Last night, it was to a building very close to his own home.
Here, between the two kneeling rescuers, you can see a hand. At first, they feared the worst, but then a little digging revealed that the child had also survived. 7-year-old Sajja had been buried alive.
Meanwhile, the Israelis step up their offensive on Gaza City itself.
These two young men described a night of many airstrikes, and they didn't bat an eyelid at the sound of another.
As John says in his report tonight, there is a great deal of controversy, even in Israel itself, as to what Mr. Netanyahu's strategy in the war actually is now, with critics arguing it is war for war's sake. Also on News at 10 tonight. 24 councils tell Paul they are contemplating taking legal action over asylum hotels. Sentenced the man who shot a police officer with a crossbow.
Oh, please stay still! Stay still!
And was then shot himself. Another triumph of water pollution, this time in Lough Neagh in Northern Ireland. And back in Gaza, a rare good news story. The school's trying to provide a slice of normality and hope for its children.
This is ITV News at 10 with Tom Bradby.
Good evening. Week in, week out here, we have been able to give you a sense of some of the horror being visited upon Gaza as a result of the astonishing bravery of the people working for us there. Last night, the onslaught came close to the home of our cameraman, Mohammed. He was one of the first on the scene to find that a young girl had been buried alive. In a rare piece of good news, she survived with a broken hip, but the scene, as you will see, was harrowing, to say the least, a vivid illustration of the terror that rains down from the sky by day and by night. Meanwhile, in Israel itself, the army issued a huge call-up to 60,000 reserve troops. An army spokesman added that his soldiers had already started circling the outskirts of their intended objective, Gaza City. The final cabinet approval for an all-out assault on the city could still be days away, but in the meantime, the central area of Gaza in Israeli sights is still being bombarded from the air.
These pictures were recorded minutes after an Israeli airstrike in central Gaza in the early hours of this morning. Carried out on a mattress, this man was dusty but still alive. Here, between the two kneeling rescuers, you can see a hand. At first, they feared the worst, but then a little digging revealed that the child had also survived. 7-year-old Sajja had been buried alive. Wait, I want to straighten my leg, she says. It's tired. Ouch, it's sore. Zachariah, where is Zachariah, she asks. He's 2 years old. Zachariah is her nephew and he survived the bombing unscathed. They find Sajja's phone and she says she wants to speak to her mother. Our cameraman tries to reassure her. I'm a neighbour, everyone is fine, he says. Don't worry about speaking to anyone else at the moment. You need to be thinking how you will get out of there and how you will help these men get you out. I've brought you a blanket. Don't be scared. Tonight, the child is in a field hospital in Gaza. She has a broken hip and shoulder. Despite the talk of peace, this week has seen no let-up from the IDF, which has concentrated much of its fire on Gaza City. As we watched airstrikes go in, artillery pieces near our filming position also opened fire. The conquest of the Strip's largest city is Israel's latest stated goal in this its longest ever war, and some of the places in the IDF's crosshairs they have taken at least 3 times before. It's far from clear exactly what the IDF hope to achieve with this operation inside Gaza City. Critics say this is war for the sake of war, and that for the Israeli Prime Minister, the objectives are more political than military. Before Israel announced the offensive aimed at Gaza City, around 1 million people were living there amidst the bombed-out buildings. This week has seen many of them up sticks and head south. These 2 young men described a night of many airstrikes. They didn't bat an eyelid at the sound of another. And then they were on their way, their belongings piled on a bicycle and in backpacks. As they headed off, the reason for their departure billowed into the blue sky. John Irvine, News at 10, Tel Aviv.
Once again then, for John's report, he and we are reliant on the skill and bravery of our local Palestinian cameraman. No international reporters are allowed into Gaza. So how dangerous is it? Well, I think you know the answer, but this week a documentary is released in cinemas that does show life and death in Gaza through the eyes of a Palestinian photojournalist. Fatima Hassana was put in touch with Iranian-born film director Sepideh Farsi, who knows herself something of conflict and oppression. The 2 women linked up online and formed a close, creative and collaborative relationship until one day the connection to Gaza went dead.
This is my neighborhood. No one lived here or there or there. There's no one. I'm a photographer.
This was Fatma Hassana's life, one that was documented by a filmmaker, as the Palestinian photojournalist described her life in regular video calls.
You can die by bombing or fear, starvation.
It is hard for Sepideh Farsi to watch her documentary now.
And I forget, you know, I listen to her and I laugh with her and all, and then it hits me again every time that happens, you know, because I keep watching it, of course, every day almost.
The day after she learned the film about her was to be played at this year's Cannes Film Festival, Fatma and several members of her family, including her pregnant sister, were killed in what the filmmaker says was a deliberate Israeli attack on the family home in northern Gaza.
When the war ends, this can be end.
You believe she was targeted?
Certainly.
The IDF have said that they were targeting someone from Hamas in the building.
Yeah, but they were asked who was that person. They never answered. Because, seriously, I mean, it was Fatem, her 2 sisters, 3 brothers. The mother is the only one who survived, miraculously. But
why do you think she was killed?
Because of her photography. Because of the blockade, no other journalists can get in. They are the only one who are documenting it.
Fatma's pictures show people in Gaza trying incredibly to continue normal life amid unbelievable devastation.
How does it feel being a Palestinian in Gaza today? Is it
I feel proud.
Proud?
I feel very proud because I feel very chill, that are strong and brave.
It has totally toppled my whole existence. Just inhuman, the whole condition.
Now, my biggest dream So have one chicken and one chocolate.
Fatma Hassona was denied even this wish. But this portrait of her life is now her legacy. The film will be released in the UK on Friday. Nina Nanar, News at 10.
Well, back here, the court win by an Essex council against the housing of asylum seekers in a hotel has, perhaps not surprisingly, prompted others to consider legal action of their own. 24 have told us that's what they are doing. The list includes Labour as well as Conservative and Reform-run councils.
Whether the protests appear peaceful or fearful, demonstrating outside hotels has been forceful in making the government move asylum seekers from this one, but to where, ministers won't say.
We're looking very carefully at the court ruling that was handed down yesterday. We'll want to identify a range of contingency options for how those people can be appropriately accommodated elsewhere.
Yesterday, the High Court ruled the Bell Hotel in Epping had to be emptied within a month because it wasn't designed for asylum seekers under planning law. ITV News has spoken to all 317 councils in England today. 24 told us they were considering taking the same legal action, many of them run by Reform UK. They also include Conservative-controlled Broxbourne Borough Council over a hotel in Cheshunt, the Labour councils Tamworth and Wirral, and Tory-run South Norfolk, where the government's trying to replace asylum-seeking families with asylum-seeking men at a hotel in Diss. If necessary, are you willing to go to the High Court to fight this issue?
If we need to, yes. We're hopeful that what the High Court said yesterday validates the position we already had. Ultimately, we think this is a planning issue. If me or you put up an illegal shed in our garden, it goes and gets torn down because it hasn't got planning permission. We need to be holding these hotels to the same standard.
Epping won its case because of the disruption the hotel's use was causing after an asylum seeker here was charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. Now some are actively encouraging more pressure via similar protests, denying that's incendiary.
Why is peacefully protesting irresponsible? The notion that worried mums should be told, stay at home, shut up, don't say anything, we're going to spend your taxpayers' money, not only on continuing to accommodate these people, but the problem is getting worse.
But there's worry inside as well as outside the Bell Hotel. Kader Mohammed has lived there since arriving from Somalia 4 months ago.
There's a lot of unsettled people in there because their life is, uncertain. Even if they were to take us to another hotel or to another area, it's going to be the same. There are going to be another people, protesting, to get us out of the hotel or to close the hotel because they have the same thing. They are concerned about us because they see us as criminals, as pedophiles, and we are not. We're not.
Nobody in Epping knows where Kader and the 100 or so other men will be moved to. They might not be the last to be told to seek asylum somewhere else.
And Paul is here to talk about this, let's be honest, quite tricky issue for the government. If all these councils do take action, that's very problematic, is it not?
Yeah, and the big question is, where do they move asylum seekers to? The government wouldn't answer that question this morning, quite evidently. I'm told by the Home Office that that's partly because of security reasons. They don't want to sort of advertise where asylum seekers might be moved to from the Bell Hotel. I think there's more going on there than that, though. The problem is there's just no kind of politically palatable answer to that question. Do you move them, for example, into flats and houses? Well, we've seen protests outside blocks of flats housing asylum seekers. And also, what does that do to the housing crisis in this country? Do you move them to large bases like military bases, or we had the BBC Stockholm barge before, which was a complete nightmare for the Conservative government? Labour closed that down. They want to reduce the use of these large sites. So again, I don't really see them going down that road either. The only answer for them is to reduce the asylum backlog, to reduce the number of people coming here. They know they've got to do that. There'll be some really important statistics out tomorrow on all of that, actually, at 9:30 in the morning. And that's going to be a big test of the government. Is it making any progress on its pledge?
OK, Paul, thank you very much indeed. Now, the tough task of working out how to support Ukraine militarily if and when a peace deal is agreed with Russia began in earnest today. Military leaders from European and other NATO countries met up online this evening. Before they got started, Russia had warned that discussing security guarantees without its involvement was the road to nowhere. And Dan joins us from Washington. I mean, Dan, it feels like the NATO meeting may be rather premature with Russia. I don't know whether you'd call it doing a complete reverse course today, but it certainly didn't sound like they were on the same page as Donald Trump.
Yeah, I don't know what the Russian for a reverse ferret is, but that seems to be what they're doing exactly. While NATO military leaders are, trying to get into the detail, Russia is now reverting to the position that it wants to have a veto over any peacekeepers in Ukraine. And that takes us back to effectively their position way back about 3 years ago in the months after the full-scale invasion, when they were saying that any kind of future for Ukraine needs their approval. They want to have a say in Ukraine's defence. And that is obviously hugely problematic for Volodymyr Zelensky. And I think perhaps it underlines that Steve Witkoff, when he came away from talks in Moscow, sort of saying, there's a breakthrough, they're willing to accept NATO-style security guarantees, heard what he wanted to hear, but perhaps didn't hear the other part of the sentence, which is as long as we have a veto over them. So there is the catch. I think that leaves the potential of this summit in a difficult place. There's still a huge gap between what Ukraine will swallow and what Russia is pushing for.
OK, Dan, thank you very much indeed. Now, the courage of police officers in chasing a man armed with a crossbow he'd fired at them was highlighted today after his sentencing. Jason King got 9 years after admitting to a string of offences, including unlawful wounding and having an offensive weapon. The chase began after King had stabbed a neighbour. During it, he shot one officer in the leg with a crossbow bolt. Video of that, of the police chase, and indeed of the moment an armed officer shot King in the stomach, was released by the court.
My dog's gonna kill you in a minute.
Menacing threats with a knife in his hand. Jason King had already stabbed his neighbour when his victim's wife called emergency services.
Kill, Rocco! Kill!
So you were the half been stabbed?
Now he's at the front door. He's got the first thing that's going to happen. He stabbed him by his belly.
But when they arrived, King fired a new weapon, a crossbow, shooting and chasing an officer.
I think he shot me. Oh, just run, just run.
I can feel blood running down the back of my leg, but I don't know how serious the injury is, so I'm just running and running. I touch the back of my leg with my trouser, and my whole hand is red, where the amount of blood is coming out of me is quite severe.
King gave chase, still armed and seemingly hunting for his next victims.
Where's the address? Address is behind us. He's out here chasing officers.
Next, trying to shoot a police dog and his handler.
5'9", yeah, he tried to shoot the dog.
King was armed with his crossbow when he ran along this road in High Wycombe, still firing shots at officers. He was headed in this direction, towards a play park just metres away that families were using and where young children were having a picnic. Armed police then arrived at the scene. King refused to drop his weapon.
Oh, please, stay still! Stay still!
And police shot him. And the crossbow is retrieved. Today, 54-year-old Jason King was sentenced to 9 years in prison at Aylesbury Crown Court. We have hidden the identity of the armed officer for his safety.
The biggest thing for me as I recall is the screams from the police officers. You don't hear that very often. You don't hear them screaming for other police officers. That's normally a member of the public screaming for the police. And that haunted me.
Following today's sentencing, the bravery of the officers was praised. A dispute on a quiet street that ended in a violent rampage.
Helen Keenan, News at 10.
Now, the latest inflation figures made for yet more uncomfortable reading for the Chancellor and indeed for households struggling with already tight budget. It's still edging up to the highest it's been, in fact, for 18 months. Inflation in July was 3.8%, up from 3.6% in June. The price of food, which of course affects everyone, is one factor contributing to the rise. It was up nearly 5%. Likewise, petrol went up 2 pence a litre last month, diesel by almost 3. And Harry is here to discuss this yet more troubling news from the Chancellor. Look, that's one piece of bad news. The other piece of bad news I suspect people will have been digesting this week is the endless speculation about tax rises in the budget, the latest of which is around property taxes. What do you make of it all?
Well, inflation, obviously bad news for the cost of living and puts more pressure on that. We saw trade unions today say because of those pressures, they think that families should get extra help in the budget. Businesses today were saying they're struggling with cost increases. They want to see tax cuts. Frankly, the Chancellor hasn't got much money for any of those things. She's got to raise money in the budget because growth has been weaker than expected. And she's ruled out increases on VAT, income tax and employees' national insurance. So there's been lots of speculation this week about what she might do. There were reports earlier this week she was looking at reforming stamp duty, introducing some sort of property tax. Tonight, there are reports that she is considering ending the exemption on capital gains tax on property sales of more than £1.5 million. That could have big implications on the property market. Now, the Treasury, as ever, is refusing to comment on any of this pre-budget speculation. It is the case, though, that ministers are considering ways of taxing wealthy people's assets because, frankly, there's not many other options for the Chancellor. So I think we should expect lots more of these ideas being floated by the Treasury in the weeks leading up to that autumn budget as they test how the markets react to these different ideas and how voters react to them as well.
OK. Leak. We've seen it before. Thank you, Harry, very much indeed. Now, the consequences of global warming are all around us, affecting how we live and the places we live. That celebrated stretch of water, Loch Ness, west of Belfast, is being choked worse than ever with green algae boosted by this summer's warmer temperatures. It's affecting the water's quality and indeed safety. The lake provides 40% of all Northern Ireland's drinking water.
A greener environment is often longed for, but not like this. For the third year running, the UK's largest freshwater lake is blighted by algae, lurking beneath the surface but doing damage daily. Once a hub for eel fishing, now an infected body of water.
It's having a damaging effect on the wildlife. Down the line it's going to have a massive knock-on effect, like the eel fishing is almost closed.
Pollution from farming, sewage and an influx in invasive species has caused this damage year after year. Pressure is on politicians and others to stop it from getting worse.
Never been as bad as that. And it's the smell and the stench. And there's a lot of potential on this loch for tourism, water sports and different things, but that's all going to the wayside now.
Loch Ness isn't just a habitat for wildlife, it's also where 40% of Northern Ireland's drinking water is sourced from. That's causing concern among households nearby. Sharon Plott hasn't drank water from her tap for months. The latest images won't be changing that anytime soon.
What is coming out of that tap? To be honest, I'm frightened. There's a mouldy taste of it, like a soily taste that never was there before. It's not the water that we would have used all our lives.
Northern Ireland Water told us it has a robust testing system and says safety is not at risk, but acknowledged that taste may be affected. All of these issues are now so obvious they can be seen from space. A plan was recently unveiled by Northern Ireland's Environment Minister, an attempt to combat the amount of nitrates and phosphorus entering the water.
Look at this. This is why we need to talk about it. This is why we need to take action. So next week we're getting round the table with the farming community and also with environmental groups, seeing what we can agree, and then I'm going to do a further consultation, and that's coming to the executive. People need to agree it. We need to be able to take action in relation to this.
With temperatures remaining high, the heat is on those in power to fix such a precious and vital asset. Stuart Robson, News at 10, Loch Ness.
How did we get there, Part 4,033,000? Now, we started news at 10 tonight with unremittingly grim images from Gaza, but there are oases of goodness amongst so much man-made suffering. Like schools the world over, the few still operating in Gaza are preparing their pupils for a future that, unlike elsewhere, they may never live to see. But as well as lessons and friendship, they do offer two things that are in short supply there: normality and hope.
Gaza has become a graveyard for children, burying the bodies of the dead beneath its ruins, beside the hopes of a future for the living. And yet, in the midst of all this, a charity in Gaza City is trying to provide the learning that will be crucial for life should their young pupils survive this war. It is rare these days to see groups of Palestinian children in Gaza alive and unbloodied. Children who physically, at least, have still escaped the worst of this war. Children who still believe they have a future to prepare for, however precarious their lives are.
What does school give me? Education. I'm learning and I might get older and become an engineer.
10-year-old Mahmoud and his 9-year-old sister Kinsey have been displaced 8 times. They're now living in the damaged remnants of a friend's home.
Before the war, I was happy and all my friends were around. Not during this war. All of them, they are displaced and everyone in a different area. And some of them under the rubble. Now it's boring. It's depressing.
They crave normality, and the chance to go to school provides it, offering them a morning routine, similar to, and yet so different from, their old lives, and the lives of children who do not face the violations of childhood this war delivers daily. The constant hum of the drone and thud of the explosions are an ongoing reminder of just how much their lives have changed. The destroyed schools on their way, testament to the learning and lives lost. Mahmoud's own body doesn't allow him to forget all that is different. Hit by shrapnel a few months into the war, he can't walk to school, so he uses his bike. But his injury means he can't pedal, so he simply drags himself along, despite continual pain. He couldn't walk for 9 months. The chance to go to school, available to so few in Gaza, is helping him and others recover and cope with the reality of living in a war zone.
What's the color of a tree? Green and brown. Well done. What? This is yellow.
We work every day knowing that the future here is uncertain, yet we choose to hold on to hope. Every lesson we give in a message that life must go on and that these children actually still deserve to have a normal life just like your children. They still deserve to dream, despite the risks and fears that surround us.
Those risks and fears are without end. More than 50,000 children just like these have been killed or injured, making Gaza the deadliest place on earth to be a child. No one in Gaza assumes there will be a tomorrow anymore. But if there is, this small school in the ruins will give its children a place to believe in their futures, should they live to enjoy them. Emma Murphy, News at 10.
Finally, just time for an update on the best story of the year, the Swedish church we mentioned last night on its 3-mile, 2-day journey across town. It arrived all in one piece at its new location after subsidence threatened its old one in Sweden's northernmost town of Kiruna. Tomorrow it will be lowered onto its new foundations. And if you fancied a trip to see inside, don't rush. Securing and restoring it will also be a slow process. In fact, it won't reopen until the start of 2027. Still, amazing story. That's all for tonight. Good night. Thanks for watching.